This is the kind of thing that is playing out all over conservative media. I just want to do a little bit of record correcting. There's not record crime right now. Number one, Harris was put in charge, as you said earlier, of combating the roots of immigration. She was not and is not the border czar.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, over the next few months, I am going to have to work my ass off. Probably the hardest I've ever worked to fight back against the propaganda machine that the mainstream liberal media is going to push over the next 3 months to get Kamala Harris elected, because the propaganda is already in overdrive. And mainly it has to do with cleaning up Kamala Harris's record and trying to change history in order to help her win. In fact, all of the rewriting of history in real time that I am seeing right now makes me question everything, almost everything that I've ever read in a history book, because I am literally witnessing the mainstream liberal media pretend as if what happened in the Democrat Party, one, was not a coup, and then two, they're also trying to change Kamala Harris's record on issues like, for example, the border, right? They're trying to say that, well, Kamala was never actually really the border czar, even though we have footage of Joe Biden appointing Kamala Harris to be the border czar.
And the Biden administration did task Vice President Kamala Harris with the issue of migrant crossings, naming her the so-called border czar.
I've asked her, the VP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? The mainstream liberal media is back to flat out denying reality, which is something they've been doing for the past 3 or 4 years, right? They essentially denied Joe Biden was mentally deteriorating. So now that they have switched out Joe Biden via a successful Democrat coup by the elites in the party, now they're back to denying reality again, which is that Kamala Harris was the border czar. She is responsible for the disastrous policies of the Biden administration, like Afghanistan, in which she said that I was the last person in the room when Joe Biden made his decision about withdrawing from Afghanistan and how he's going to do it. Okay. And again, she was border czar. But again, according to the media, these things never happened because they're trying to take away the Republican talking points or the attacks that they're using against Kamala Harris, which again is that she's not a legitimate nominee, right? She's there because of a coup, and she's attached to the Biden administration and all of his failures, which again, the liberal media is now in overdrive trying to push back against the Republicans and their criticisms of Kamala.
Soon after President Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed Vice President Harris, Republican Senator Tom Cotton posted this on social media, quote, Joe Biden succumbed to a coup by Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and Hollywood donors, ignoring millions of Democratic primary votes. Donald Trump took a bullet for democracy. And Senator Cotton of Arkansas joins me now. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. As much as any politician I've seen, you choose your language very carefully. So why call this a coup and not January 6th?
Okay, before Tom Cotton answers this question, I want to answer this question. First and foremost, a coup requires coordination, right? January 6th, according to the FBI, which is not Trump friendly, okay? There's no evidence of coordination in regards to what happened on January 6th. So January 6th was not a coup, okay? It was not a coup. And if it was a coup, it was one of the worst coups in history, right? If you've actually studied coups, right? If you know how coups work, typically they involve the elite making backdoor deals in order to overthrow the person that's currently in power, and it's done in a coordinated way, which is what Democrats did to Joe Biden, right? But again, none of that happened on January 6th. If anything, if you want to say there was a coup that took place on January 6th, it was actually a coup against President Trump, because General Milley, along with Nancy Pelosi, making backroom deals to essentially subvert the authority of the commander-in-chief by essentially saying that, hey, if Trump gives us some order, we're not going to follow it. Yeah, that's actually a coup. In fact, Nancy Pelosi and General Milley should be standing trial for treason for that phone call, to be quite honest with you. If you want to talk about coups, let's talk about the fact that the only reason that the Capitol protests happened and it got out of control is because the Democrats, along with the military, undermined Trump, staged a silent coup against Trump in regards to his control of the military. When Trump requested the National Guard be there, they said, no. We're not going to allow the National Guard to be there because we're afraid that Trump is going to use the National Guard to take over the Capitol, which is why the National Guard wasn't there, which is why they weren't allowed to show up when the Capitol protest was happening. It's because Democrats went out of their way to overthrow Trump in his authority as commander-in-chief of the military. This is what they did. So if you want to talk about coups on January 6th, the only people that conducted a coup on January 6th were the Democrat Party. A protest that turns into a riot in which you have these individuals invade the Capitol is not a coup. Because if you want to define that as a coup, then Democrats have conducted several coups over the past few years. I can name a few of them off the top of my head. The Hamas supporters that invaded the Capitol was a coup, right? According to Mr. John Berman here. The Roe v. Wade rioters that tried to overtake the Supreme Court in response to Brett Kavanaugh being appointed, that's a coup, according to this guy's definition of a coup. I don't want to hear nothing about no January 6th being a coup, but what the Democrats did is not a coup. Ridiculous. Nonsense, man.
Well, John, look what happened just last weekend. You had Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, George Clooney, Hollywood moguls, Wall Street bankers, all working behind closed doors to bring unbearable pressure to bear on Joe Biden, who in the end threw in the towel. And now you have the Democratic Party uniting around Kamala Harris, who not only has never won a Democratic primary, she's never won a single vote for president, yet they've installed her as their nominee. That's what they want to go forward with in this election, even as we still have questions
I get that,
about
but
Kamala Harris's role in all of this. Kamala Harris.
You use the language coup, and again, you've never said that for January 6th, and as far as I know,
because January 6th was not a coup, right? At least not from Republicans, not from Trump. That was not a coup, okay? But this was a coup, and Tom Cotton just explained why it was a coup. You know what Tom Cotton should say? If I was Tom Cotton, I would say, so you don't think what happened with Joe Biden was a coup? You don't think that was a coup? Explain to me how that was not a coup. You think that was democratic. What the Democrats did was democratic. Explain to me who voted for Kamala Harris. How many primary votes did Kamala Harris get? Again, you got to make these people defend it, right? Make these people defend what the Democrats did on national television. Make them explain how in the world is this something that is a part of democracy. You're okay with rich, elite, wealthy Democrats making backroom deals to force people to accept their nominee, right? That's what you're pro. You're pro plutocracy, right? That's what you're pro. This is what you're saying. Republicans, again, they're going to be talking about this a lot. They have to turn this around on the media. When it comes to this talking point, anytime they bring up January 6th, you need to turn it back around on them and make them explain and support what the Democrats did to Joe Biden. Explain how is that democratic? Explain why is that right? Make these people explain why is it okay to undermine all of the millions of votes that Joe Biden got in the primary without holding another primary, right? Make them explain that.
As far as I know, no cops were beaten up, no one defecated in the Capitol, there was no criminal trespass in terms of changing the Democratic candidates, were there?
Yeah, so again, if this is this man's definition of a coup, just look at footage of the pro-Hamas rioters going into the Capitol. All of that exists, right? All the things this guy is talking about. We've seen Democrats do this. So again, if this is the route he wants to go, then, I guess you could define any protest the Democrat, they've conducted many coups, right? Many coups over the years.
Well, no, but what you get with Kamala Harris is a failed prosecutor who wouldn't seek the death penalty for cop killers, even though her fellow San Francisco Democrat Dianne Feinstein wanted to. Kamala Harris also has to answer questions about what's happened over the last 3.5 years. She was not just a part of the conspiracy of silence about Joe Biden's decline. She was the leader of it. She has said time and time again that he's fit as a fiddle, that he's sharp as a tack. When Robert Hur in February refused to bring criminal charges against Joe Biden, in large part because he said he was a failing feeble, frail old man, Kamala Harris came out and savaged him in the most strident terms. So the American people deserve to know, what did Kamala Harris know and when did she know it?
You know, it is interesting. You and others have been very critical of Joe Biden when he was running, saying he couldn't serve another 4 years. But when the Democratic Party and Joe Biden himself agrees with you finally, you criticize them. Isn't that a double standard?
Well, here's the thing. Joe Biden doesn't agree, right? Again, these people are so dense. They're so dense. They're trying to rewrite history in front of our face, guys. Oh, well, what happened to Joe Biden wasn't a coup. He agreed to it. Joe Biden came out for days on in and said, I'm not stepping down no matter what. Challenge me at the DNC. Let's do an open convention. I'm not stepping down. I'm good. Joe Biden was forced out. Forced. Okay? For these people to try to pretend it was anything else except force. They threatened this man like crazy. God knows what they said to him. We don't know what they told Joe Biden. But obviously they told him something to change his mind. Right? What do you call that? But again, they're trying to, oh, well, Joe just decided himself that he's just going to step down. There was no pressure. There were no threats. Again, they're rewriting history in real time, guys. Right in front of our face. They're telling us the events that we have observed. Yeah, that didn't happen, right? It didn't really happen like that. And this is the way it actually happened. This is why I'm thinking about everything that I read in a history book. I'm like, damn. I'm not sure if I can believe it because I'm witnessing how they rewrite history in real time. Again, it blows my mind.
Well, John, what I've always said is that Joe Biden was obviously declining. He probably wasn't fit to be president. But even if he was 20 years younger, he still would have been a failed president because he was too liberal. And the same is true of Kamala Harris. She is a San Francisco liberal. She's responsible for all of the failed Biden-Harris policies. As vice president, she presides over the Senate, casts votes to break ties. She literally cast the tie-breaking vote for the trillions of dollars of spending that unleashed record high inflation. Joe Biden appointed her border czar. We've had more than 10 million illegal aliens cross our border with Kamala Harris.
You know that's
John,
actually
absolutely
not true.
No.
She was appointed. What she charged with doing was dealing with the diplomatic effort in the Northern Triangle, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. She was never picked as the border czar. You can criticize what she did on immigration, but she was never the border czar, correct?
Wow. You see what I'm saying, guys? Rewriting history. Kamala was never border czar. I already played the footage at the beginning of the video, so you guys already saw it, right? You already saw that this guy, he's just lying. Like, this is just a flat-out lie. Now, they can play the semantics game, but the media said that she was the border czar. Biden appointed her to deal with the root causes of illegal immigration, right? What does that sound like, right? That sounds like a person that's in charge of the border, the overall issue of illegal immigration. But see, what happened is that Kamala didn't want that job because she is pro unlimited illegal immigration, right? She loves illegal immigrants.
I think that people underestimate how easy it is to become a U.S. citizen.
Claudia Rivera knows all too well. She spent her Saturday at this immigrant resource fair in San Francisco, sponsored by Community Support Services and District Attorney Kamala Harris.
Your immigrant status, whatever it is, does not, in our mind's eye, designate you as a criminal.
Harris wants immigrants to know that San Francisco police and prosecutors will protect illegal immigrants if they are victims of crime. Claudia Rivera says she came here illegally 3 years ago and needs a good job, medical services, and yes, citizenship.
I'm a good woman. I'm not criminal. I make it all things very good. But I need help.
We had a very spirited debate on this stage last night on the topic of decriminalization of the border. If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross a border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
Must be addressed.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Again, so what do we have here, folks? What do we have here? Just peak gaslighting from the media. Kamala Harris on record, on tape, being a progressive extremist on illegal immigration, right? She doesn't believe being an illegal immigrant is actually a crime, right? It's not a crime to enter the country illegally. She wants open borders. She was in charge of the border, appointed by Joe Biden as the border czar. Lo and behold, borders wide open. Illegals coming into the country all over the place, right? All over the world. Never seen anything like it. Oh, well, Kamala, she wasn't in charge of that. It wasn't her fault. Even though Biden put her in charge, it still wasn't her fault. She wasn't border czar. These people are working overtime to protect Kamala Harris instead of questioning her and criticizing her record now that she's the nominee, especially considering the fact that she wasn't democratically elected. So you would think that the media would say, you know what? Well, because she wasn't democratically elected, the people didn't really have a say. We should actually be more critical of her nomination, right? That's what a fair, honest, and actually journalistic outlet would do, right? If they had integrity. That's all the more reason to scrutinize. But no, what they're doing, they're actually pushing back against any criticism. They're trying to silence any criticism while at the same time trying to rewrite her record. It's disgusting. It really is. It's insane to witness what's happening in real time, guys. It's insane.
Well, John, Joe Biden said that's what she was going to do. Now, maybe she wanted to limit it because she said things in the past during her failed campaign for president, like she wanted to decriminalize illegal entry into this country, or she wanted to abolish the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Again, Kamala Harris is a San Francisco liberal who would just continue the failed Biden-Harris policies, or as a matter of fact, probably make them worse if you look at her record as the most liberal senator, even more liberal than Bernie Sanders.
Progressive is the word, right? You need to start calling it what it is. She is a far left progressive. That's what she is. On economic issues, on social issues, progressive. Let's use the right terminology here, right? There's nothing liberal about Kamala Harris. She's a progressive.
It sounded, up until this point, it sounded like you would rather run against Joe Biden than Vice President Harris. Is that true?
It's not about who we'd rather run against. What it's about is the principle that Democrats have lectured us on democracy for the past 3 or 4 years, right? And how, you must vote for Joe Biden and Democrats will save democracy. And they just overthrew democracy within their own party because they were losing. It's about the principle. I personally believe that Trump probably has a better chance of beating Kamala, right? Who knows? I mean, here's the thing. Pre-Joe Biden getting nuked by his own party, I think that Joe Biden would have been harder to beat than Kamala. The only reason Joe Biden got easier to beat is because Democrats actually came out and started attacking him, right? The mainstream liberal media admitted the truth. And then all of a sudden, Joe Biden poll numbers dropped, which again is fascinating because when the media actually does their job, guys, you see that Democrats have no shot of winning, okay? But when the media is running their propaganda, well, Democrats have a chance. Again, it shows you like where this country would be if the media was actually fair and balanced. If they were not an arm of the Democrat Party, Democrats would never win. They wouldn't have a chance of winning at all.
Oh, I'm like Donald. I agree with Donald Trump on this. It doesn't matter who the Democrats run. They can take Joe Biden out of the White House. They can't take the failed liberal ideology out of their party. And Kamala Harris probably embodies that failed ideology more than anyone. A San Francisco liberal who has consistently voted to spend trillions of dollars, that's unleashed inflation, that's defended wide open borders, and supported a failed foreign policy that has brought chaos and war around the world.
You guys see what's going on here, right? Like you guys get what's happening, okay? The next 3 months of propaganda is going to be insane. We've never seen anything like it. And I just know that I just have a lot of work ahead of me, right? I know that I'm going to have to be pushing back on so many things because these people are going to kick it into overdrive to try to force Kamala Harris down our throats, and we cannot allow it to happen. We cannot be gaslit again like they did with Joe Biden, but now they're just doing it with Kamala Harris, and it's just going to be even worse, right? It's going to be even worse. They're already doing it. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.